Major Drake is let's go.
I'll send that to Jason. Yeah, I got the voice. I think he's still I
We can do the same, right? What's that? The house is about
It's really dry.
to go for it.
Just call it Jeff.
So just
Straight is
Yeah. 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 That's the planner.
Yeah, man, I'll let you know what you
Thanks.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Army Futures Command fiscal year 2023 first quarter Town Hall and Awards Ceremony will begin momentarily. I'd like to remind you to please remove your badges, as well as silence your electronic devices. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the town hall and award ceremony will begin in 2 minutes. We would also like to remind everyone to remain online after the town hall event as we take a short break and transition into the award ceremony. Thank you.
I'm ready, gentlemen.
Hey, carry on, everybody. Carry on, please sit down.
I think it's the first thing I've been on time. I'm on time.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Army Futures Command, Commanding General James E. Rainey, and Army Futures Command Command Sergeant Major Brian Hester, we welcome you to the fiscal year 2023 first quarter Town Hall and Award Ceremony. And as a reminder, for those of you in attendance, we kindly request that all electronic devices are silenced or turned off and badges are removed. Those who are attending virtually, please ensure your cameras are off and microphones are muted. Thank you. We would also like to welcome our distinguished guests who are in attendance for today's ceremony. Lieutenant General Richard R. Kaufman, Deputy Commanding General, Army Futures Command. Lieutenant General D. Scott McKean, Deputy Commanding General, Futures and Concept Center. Lieutenant General Thomas H. Todd III, Commanding General, Acquisitions and Systems. Brigadier General Michelle M. Letcher, Chief of Staff, Army Futures Command. Chief Warrant Officer 5, Edwin De La Cruz Jr., Command Chief Warrant Officer, Army Futures Command. We'd also like to welcome our AFC team, their family members, and our friends. And so on behalf of General Rainey, Command Sergeant Major Hester, and the Army Futures Command Support Battalion, welcome to the fiscal year 2023 first quarter Town Hall, where General Rainey will discuss his commander's assessment and the DOC survey result. Following this, we'll have a question and answer session. For those of you that have questions and are participating virtually, please drop your questions in the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. So ladies and gentlemen, General Rainey.
Hey. All right. Hey, thanks a lot, everybody. So, you guys aren't distinguished guests. You're freaking teammates. This is family business. I know you're just reading the script. It's good. Well, we missed one. Miss Miller, will you stand up for a second? Yep, we hit the jackpot. So Miss Miller is a career professional, world-class, I know we call it human capital, human resource, she's the world-class people expert. And I wish I could take credit for hiring her, but it happened, but sometimes you get lucky in life. So she is our new all things people. I'll talk about that in a minute. But we are lucky, and I'd ask everybody to welcome her and help her get on the team. So I'm happy because I'm going to talk about priorities. People is the priority. Now we got one of the best people in the department who can help us lead that effort. It's going to take effort. So thank you. I'm glad you're here. If you can't get along with her, you'll probably leave. So if there's another reason to support her, make her. If you need one more reason, that's a good one. I'm not kidding. But I almost said I was just kidding. I'm not. Okay, big day today. So I got here 90 days ago and went through a real deliberate assessment process. That's kind of what you do, take over. And I said at the time that I'm probably the weak link in AFC. It was about me. It wasn't figuring out what's broke. It was me learning the organization, learning a diverse team of people all over the place. If you ask most people in the Army, where's AFC at, they'll say Austin, Texas, right? There's 400 or 500 people in Austin, Texas. More important is corporate headquarters. But there's 20, depending how you count, 20 to 30,000 AFC teammates spread out all over the world. So that was one of my big observations. So it took me a little while. There's a couple places I haven't got to yet. I'll get there. Candidly, I'm from the school of, don't go to the stuff that's going great first. Go to the complex stuff at places. So, I haven't got to you yet. That's a good thing. So bear with me a little bit. But I learned a lot, and it all reaffirmed my main point is that AFC was a great idea. There's no doubt, and there should be no doubt in anyone's mind that standing up AFC was a bold and good decision. Number two, we're full of really talented people. So if you get an organization, the one problem you never want to have is not having good people. If you got good people, you can do anything. So we got a lot of talent. And I talk about recruiting and retaining talent. I want more talent, not because we don't have talent now. I'm not looking to trade out people, I'm looking to get more talent. So don't read anything into that. If you're already on the team, you just obviously want to keep going after more talent. And we want to retain the talent we have. And we've produced some really good results. But nothing's perfect. We've got some areas we can improve, like you always do. And even if we were perfect now, we want to raise the bar over time, right? So I'll talk about some of that. One slide, go to slide, please. Yeah, so interesting, and I'll be candid with everybody, the team. When I got here, I would ask people, hey, what's AFC for? What's our purpose? And I'll be honest with you, I got a lot of different answers. No bad answers, but one of my takeaways was that we don't have a clear understanding of every single person in AFC of what our purpose is, how we do that. So I want to start there, okay? So AFC, our purpose is to transform the Army to ensure war-winning future readiness. So I think every teammate in AFC should be able to answer, hey, what's AFC for? What's our purpose? I'd expect everybody to know that, right? Transform, not modernize. Modernize is one of about 12 things you got to do to transform. It's important. We own requirements. I take that very seriously. If you're in that part of our operation, that's a big deal. You got to play well with others, but you can be a little territorial when somebody starts getting into it. Everybody can collaborate on requirements, but AFC owns them. I'm accountable to the Secretary of the Army for requirements. But Mr. Bush and his team own the acquisition. I don't see any drama. So that's modernization. We don't lead the modernization enterprise. We don't modernize the Army. We are much bigger than that. We're responsible for transforming the Army across DOTMA PFB, delivering the Army of 2030, designing the Army of 2040. War-winning future readiness means we're the best Army in the world today, and And we want to be the best Army in the world every single day from now to 2040. And to be the best in 2040, we won't be the best in 2040 if we stay where we're at. Transform the Army, war-winning future readiness. That means, if you're the Army, that means you're going to fight with partners in the joint force and wars about governments, not militaries and all that, but that means dominating the land domain. Preferably to deter anybody from deciding they can fight us. But if necessary, absolute domination of the land domain. That's war winning readiness. And I can unpack that more. And I sent you all a letter. How many people got my email? Okay. Got about 12 hands when we got down to Benning, so we did better in the headquarters district. Okay, so I tried to lay this out for you in a letter. So that's our purpose. I've established 3 priorities for AFC. If you're a leader, so everybody ought to know our purpose. If you're in the leadership business, you ought to understand our priorities. Number 1 is people. And I'm not just saying that. I believe that. 1, because I care about people. 2, I'm a decent leader. You can't get anything done if you don't take care of your people. So people got to be first, right? And then number 2, designing the Army of 2040. Number 3 is delivering 2030. And 2040 in AFC is more important than 2030. You got to make that shift. That is not the current case, in my opinion. Well, it is now, but we've got to finish that transition. That means writing an AOC, an operating concept for 2040, is probably the single most important thing that's happening in AFC over the next 9 months. That's why General McKean's operation is the main effort. That's where I'm going to put my personal time. We got to do a lot of other stuff. But the opportunity to get ahead of the Chinese ain't by chasing and catching. It's outthinking them, jumping ahead of them, grabbing high ground, and putting them in a dilemma. The only way we're going to do that is if we figure out how to fight. But 2030 is a must do. If you're in the 24 and 23 business, when I did my change of command, you ever watch Change of Command? Some of you have been in them, you know, when they're passing the guide on and they're talking, you always like, I wonder what they're saying. The chief said to me 24 and 23. When he didn't say congratulations, thanks, glad you're here. He and I know each other. He handed me the guide on and said, hey, 24 and 23. So just because 24 is more important than 2030 doesn't mean we ain't doing 2030. The good thing about 2030, we in AFC are accountable for delivering the Army of 2030, but we don't own a single piece of it. So I get asked, how much time are you going to spend in 2030? I'm like, hopefully none. TRADOC, the people enterprise, the facility, everybody does their job. I'm just going to keep an eye on them. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. But, so 3 priorities. Now, the 6 function thing is, and it's hard. You know, I tried to break down the essential things we do into a manageable amount of stuff. Let me tell you why this is important. There's a famous story about President Johnson going to NASA. You might have heard this, and he's walking around. He bumps into a janitor in the hallway, and he says, "Hey, what do you do here?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm putting a man on the moon." Great story, absolutely untrue. Never happened if you're a history buff, but it's still a great story. But the point is that I want everybody in AFC to understand what they do and how that relates back to transforming the Army to ensure war-winning future readiness, right? So everybody here does one of about 6 things. The FOE, right, the future operating environment, absolutely essential. Mr. Mortensen and his team kind of lead it, but it's got to be a team effort because everything we do starts with the enemy. And it's not the enemy China, it's the enemy China plus demographics, economics, geopolitics, big, strategic level, hard stuff. Then there's about 4 things we do in the middle: concepts, research, experimentation, and requirements. And when I say research, to me that's S&T, that's engineering, that's the big R research, not the technical definition of research. So we go out and write a concept. Some stuff we can't do yet, so we got to go do some research, figure that out, right? Concepts only tell us what we think we want. We got to have a rigorous experimentation approach to validate, go from what we think we want to what we know we want, and then we own the requirements, not just material requirements, the whole requirement process. And the most important thing, which we're not good at right now, we're going to get really good at fast, is we got to integrate those other 5 things. We got to integrate academia, we got to integrate industry, we got to integrate across the Army between TRADOC and AMC. So integration, you're going to hear me talking a lot about that. But everybody on the team should be able to say, hey, the Kevin Bacon thing, like I'm 6 degrees away from that, which, right? So if you're an HR person, I don't do 20, 30, or 20, 40. Well, yeah, but you're responsible for the family. So we ain't gonna get anywhere. That links back to priority 1. If I'm a scientist in a lab somewhere, what am I doing? We're making sure we transform the Army. Your piece of that puzzle is figuring out this because we can't do it yet, right? So I'm gonna walk around and ask my leaders, our leaders, to be able to walk around and ask people like, hey, what's our purpose and what do you do and how does that, I think that's a reasonable expectation given the intelligence experience of our workforce, right? So that's about it. And then none of it can happen without a good analytical, we want to bring everything to record we do so we can win arguments about why we're right. Which sometimes we're great at, sometimes we're not. But that's where TRAC and our ORSAs and all our analytical experts come in. So that's kind of the one thing that I'd like to start off, and I can take questions on this, but, right? You got a purpose, you got 3 priorities, 6 essential functions. And I'm going to put out some objectives for 23, getting the next level of management. But I really want everybody to kind of take this on board. If you're a leader, all the way down to, whoever, right? Okay, next slide. Let's talk about DOCs. People tell me, hey, people hate doing DOCs. My theory is people don't mind doing DOCs. They hate doing DOCs and never hearing anything about it, right? Now, the truth is they probably hate it and hate not hearing about it. So I owe you an outbrief. So let me talk about this. First of all, I've been doing this a long time, and I have never seen that high a participation rate. I mean, the ORSA folks will tell you, what are you, 20, 25%. Get an accurate, so over 50%. I asked for 70, but I asked for 70, hoping to get 50. So we did real good. So first of all, I appreciate everybody who took the time to contribute. And there's numbers by organization. So big picture first. I would say that our command climate, our the things we measure in the DOCs are not great, not broken, right? So we're not horrible, not great either. So we're somewhere in good, positive, generally positive. But that's not, come on, that's not what we want to be, right? We want to be excellent, we want to be the best. We want to make sure every single person feels valued, respected, taken care of. But I've seen a lot worse. There's a couple places, little things I'm concerned about, a little pocket here and there, a little topic here and there, and I'll address that through the leadership. I'll call General Brown and say, hey, look into this, and I'll ask the chief to go into this one area. So I don't want to get into all that with you today because I want to take your questions afterwards. But so no train wrecks, but not excellence. So we got work to do together as a team. The kind of 3 big things that jumped out is we don't communicate as well as we should. And that, I don't think I've got some serious senior commanders here. I don't think I've ever seen a DOCS that said, I've never got one back. Like, well, the one thing we're awesome at is communicating. It's like, that's a pretty consistent problem. And I'm going to talk to you about some things I think we're going to take on and see if we can do better at that. One of my favorite sayings is information is motivation. I grew up as an infantryman walking around in the woods, not knowing where I'm going. Nobody's got good morale. You just kind of take a little time to explain to people where we're at and where we're going. You don't get great morale, but you get a little bump. But we're going to work on communication. Telework, that's still, we're still having conversations about that. I signed the my first town hall, I told you I'd sign a telework policy in 30 days. I did. Only because we have a great chief who warned me out at about day 29 and said, "Hey, you sign this?" I'm like, "No, I got other stuff to do." Well, you're gonna be a liar at about 9 o'clock tomorrow, so I said, "I don't want to do that." So, anyways, we got a policy out. I'll just be honest with you, not because I don't care, but I don't think 4-star ACOM commander is where we want to be managing telework. So basically, I didn't punt, I didn't take the easy out, I delegated it down to the level of leadership I think should be managing. And there's a process. If you get told no or yes by your leader, there's a process to elevate. If it comes to me, I'll do it. But I think this is good. Colonel GS-15, that I'm not wearing anything very well. About Colonel GS-15 managing their team. So that's how I'd like to handle telework. But I can take questions on that. The chief's here to answer them. Cohesion and connectiveness. This is where I think we can really go to the next level as a team. You know, there's treating people with dignity and respect, you know, being a good teammate. That's kind of, to me, that's not the standard. That's a minimum. You know, if you ain't doing that, then, you know, people need to leave the team. So I don't want to aspire to an organization that just treats people with dignity and respect and plays well with others. I think we can be a great team by working on our cohesiveness and being proactive in how we care for each other. And on the leaders, the senior leaders up here, we got a huge opportunity to get way more serious about leader development. One of the ways I've seen units get really good is when everybody has a leader that's personally invested in making them better. Because everybody wants to be better, right? And our leader development on the military side and the civilian side is, and for a lot of good reasons. We're busy, we're going fast, but it's not excellent. So I've asked General Kaufman, Ms. Miller for now. We're gonna hire Ms. Goodyear's replacement, but there's a lot of opportunities in the civilian side, a lot of good programs that we're not leaning into, and we know how to do military leader development. Just because we're a non-standard organization doesn't mean we shouldn't go after leader development the way we do in the tactical warfighting unit. We've got the leaders to do that, and some of them are doing it. That's not it. There's pockets of excellence, so all we got to do is just spread it around a little bit. So those are kind of the three big ones. Next slide, please. So, you know, so I have to take DOC's outbriefs from my subordinates, and they always tell me what they said, which is interesting. What I always tell them is, okay, what are you going to do about it? You know, tell me your plan. So these are some things that we're going to move out on. It's not all inclusive. I'd ask you to be part of the solution, help us, right? But the communication thing, I've asked all our leaders to go work on. I talked about leader development. I think everybody understanding what AFC's purpose and how they tie into that is important. I think I've done my part of that. You got to have a slide. I got a slide now, right? Purpose. 3 priorities, 6 essential functions. So it's on you now to drive that all the way down into our formation. I started a CG suggestion portal. Right? Does it work? At 11. It's live. What time is it? Okay, it's live now. You notice that I did not tell the chief to set up a complaint hotline. Right, words matter. If you got a complaint, complain. We got a great IG. We got vehicles to do that, and you can use this to complain if you want. But I called it a suggestion hotline on purpose, because I think the people that know the stuff we should be doing better and have the good ideas are somewhere not on the 19th floor, not on the 15th floor, not at DevCom command suite. They're somewhere in our formation. And I've used this effectively in the past. We can continue to develop it. But if you've got I've been in places like I've looked 3 levels up in my organization, like, man, a wish he had. I was younger, stupider then, but I was like, I wish that general would ask me what I thought. So there you go. I care. I'm serious. So lean into this if you'd like. Sergeant Major's coffees are awesome. What did you have last time? 50, 60 people there. So he's available. He asked me what I wanted him to do in our initial counseling. And I said, lead by walking around, man. Go do great Sergeant Major things. Find out what we're doing to do better. So he's available to you, and he's getting creative on how to do that in an organization like ours. Got to get my leaders out and about. If you're a leader, I'm talking Colonel, GS-15, directors, SESs, generals. It's easy to get. It happens to me. Your computer will suck you in, suck the life out of you. So just getting up and walking around. That's something we could. Me personally, I've not done that well in 90 days. I'm going to take that on, but all of us can do a better job of getting out and about. It's post-COVID. It's get people back together again. I published the telework policy. I talked about that. And then I talked about the cohesion. Civilian wellness, I'll let the chief go into the details about that, but that's done, right? So if you're one of our civilian teammates, you have time on the clock to take care of yourself physically. There's rules, don't go crazy on me. Right? Don't put a weight set in your office. I guess you can, I probably don't care. But no, that's a big deal. I've seen that. They do that in the Pentagon, where I came from, and it is. I guarantee you, if you do 3 hours of healthy fitness, we will get more out of you in 40 hours than if you don't. So I think that's a good investment in you and your family. And please avail yourself of that opportunity. The resiliency and stress management thing, I asked the team. We don't have solutions yet, but I asked Ms. Miller and the chief. We could probably get some systems in place where people are having a high stress day or anxiety day. I've seen some different approaches to that, so we're trying to figure that out. Maybe take better care of each other. It's pretty easy to hire a few folks or set up an area that facilitates it. To start a new effort that for now I'm calling workforce of the future workforce. I'm going to ask her to build a team of teams to come up with ideas and suggestions, programs. And, she's a great leader; she'll figure it out. But I think she'd probably welcome some volunteers or have some sessions, right? Because really, when it comes to people, which I said are our number one priority, we got to do two things. We got to get them, right? We got to get them. So that means recruiting new ones and retaining ones and are great teammates. So we got to get them, but then more important is we got to take care of them. We got to develop them. We got to take care of them, build cohesive teams. So this to me is a big deal that will be going on. There's no suspense on this task, right? This isn't. I mean, I told her to get going, but this is kind of a living approach, and I'm really looking forward to. One thing I know about leadership, if you have great subordinates, the less guidance you give them, you usually get a better product. So I just told her to figure this out. And she'll figure that out with all of our help. So that's kind of where we're at, what we learned, and what we're going to do about it. And I hope that list is just the beginning of a bunch of great ideas. Okay, next slide. Am I ready for questions? Okay, let me add. Sergeant Major, you got any opening comments or anything before you hit the question and answers? And then I'll take questions on that or anything else.
No, thanks, sir. I just, again, it's great to see everybody. And it seems like as we continue to do this, we get more and more folks that are interested. So the fact that you're interested is important. That means that you want to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem, I believe. People usually don't turn in because they want to be, anything other than part of the solution. So thanks to everybody for being here. It is a new year. There's a lot of new energy in the headquarters and frankly throughout the entire organization. Some of that may be as it's a new year. Everybody wants to do something good for themselves in a new year. It could be because we have new leadership. It could be because people are starting to understand where the CG is sort of looking to in the future. And all of that is really good. And you know, I don't want to echo exactly what the boss said, but I do believe that people in this headquarters come to work every day, to do a good job, and to be successful, and to be a good member of the team. I really don't think anybody comes in here and says, I'm gonna drop a hand grenade in the middle of this place and watch it explode. I've never really experienced that in my time in the Army. So good people, everybody wants to be helpful. That's important, and we're gonna make a lot of headway going forward in the future. It's exciting, and it should be energizing for all of us. So I'm just looking forward to being part of that.
All right, let's take some questions. Anybody?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you raise your hand, someone will bring a microphone to you so you can ask your question. And then personnel attending virtually, go ahead and place your questions in the chat box.
Yeah. Excuse me. When you were talking about the civilian wellness program, it's an amazing concept. And my question is, I know the Army has this now, but it's limited to 6 months. For AFC, have we extended that so it's now a permanent thing? And how do we get more information on that?
See this? See what I said right there? Some other reasons.
Appreciate the question. So our civilian fitness program that we've just had signed is not a limited program. It's something that we put in place so that we can have continuous wellness, fitness across our civilian force like we do for military. And so until there is any other law or regulation that might have us take another look at it, that's going to be in place for now until anything else changes.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. I just wanted to put COB5 Dela Cruz on the spot. He's relatively new to the organization. A lot of people still don't know who he is. So I wonder if you could introduce him and maybe tell us a little bit more about his role as the Command Chief Warrant Officer. Gotcha, Chief.
I thought everybody knew Chief, man. He's all over the place. So, 5-10 years ago, the Army looked around and said, we got great commanders, we got sergeant majors, but Warrant Officer Corps, not big in number, but huge in impact, right? So we got warrant officers to be the indisputed technical experts, and as the Army becomes more and more complex, our warrant officers are going to be more and more important. So the Army said, hey, we ought to have, our major commands, we ought to have a senior warrant officer. And we got one of the 2 or 3 best in the Army down here. So we hit the jackpot. He's a warfighter. He and I have chewed some dirt on the battlefield. Again, like Miss Miller, I can't take credit for hiring him. I just inherited him, but it was a great hire. He's here. You ever hear the term directed telescope? You guys familiar with that? It's a leadership tool where you have certain members of your team that you can put on a specific topic, and they can dedicate time, have the warfighting experience, technical expertise, and people skills to go figure out a problem and come back to you. That's primarily how I use him. He's also got responsibility for the professional development of all the warrant officers across AFC as a senior warrant officer. Stand up, Chief. And he's a handsome fellow. Yeah, but he's awesome. Okay, thank you for that.
Yes, sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are there any updates on the status of the bill contract renewal at the Rock?
Chief?
So there's not a decision yet, but we brought the commander some options on the way ahead. We did do the survey to see where most people wanted to work, and most people in the command wanted to work at the Rock, but first they'd rather telework. So what we're doing is we're collecting from the supervisors to find out how many people really want to come into the Rock and work before we invest dollars. We have a couple of options for the commander. The Rock remains an option, that's not off the table, and we've also extended the time for that decision as well as we work through that.
Yeah, thanks. They offered us another year free, right? something like that. They extended. Nothing's, yeah. Thank you for correcting me. Nothing is free in the AFC, in the Army. But yeah, they generously continue their cooperation. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it's frustrating. I've only been here 90 days. That's not an excuse. What I was really waiting for was Miss Miller to get here. Because to me, when I say workforce of the future and caring for our people, that's telework policy, that's the rock, that's why parking costs so much. I'm furious about the last round of this BAH thing. The only person that's madder than me about it is him, so I'm not personally spending time because they gotta deal with him about it. But we gotta appeal that, we gotta review it. So to me, when I say workforce of the future, we have a chief, we have a no kidding SES2 people, chief of people. Can't call it that because it's a cop. We gotta come up with a better acronym. Or we can say Chico or Chica or whatever. But I told her, you notice the theme. I do actually initially counsel and do expectations when everybody works for me. But I said, hey, put a sign on your door that says I do people. And you do that because. But I say that I don't want to make a rock decision in the absence of a bunch of other pieces of information. So I'd say 90, 100 days. But I want to give her a chance to kind of pull some folks together. We don't understand the problem well enough. Then I got this law about you got to use GSA buildings. And, we talk about toxic climates. I mean, that thing is literally toxic building. So I'm not going to put teammates in a building that's not safe. So can I get out of that? If I can get out of that, would we get out of that? What would impact would that have on it? Right? So we got some work to do. That's a great question. Thanks. Next. Anybody out on the net anywhere? Go ahead.
Hey, sir. Question. Where do you see the software factory in the next 5-10 years?
We're working hard on that right now. So I think the software factory is awesome. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great idea. I think it's producing a much needed thing. I think it's got, it's probably the leading indicator we have of the workforce and the kind of skills we're going to need to add in the future. I would put AI2C in that same category. But it's got to break. It's got to be sustainable, right? So the most important thing we got to do is how we put people through the software factory process, right? And then launch them out of the nest, land them in places in the Army where they will be professionally developed, not just as software experts, but if you're a 92 Yankee E6 and you want to be an E7, you gotta go be a platoon sergeant. You know what I mean? There's no NCOES for coders, right? So I care deeply about the people professionally and, right? So if you're in the Army, and there's a civilian analogy to this, I don't have a good one. There's a thing called fieldcraft, right? Where everybody needs to know how to operate on the battlefield. There's a thing called tradecraft, where you need to be an expert in the thing you do. So coders fall in, right? There's no path yet for somebody to just hang out at the software factory for the rest of your career. I don't see that. Candidly, that's not part of it. Now, when they do go out, how do they maintain connected back to the software factory, have a mothership where they can maintain skills and proficiencies? But how do they contribute? So we're working on things. And there's going to be multiple answers, right? There's MOSs, there's some high-end signal and cyber MOSs that might be a future. There's a bunch of places we're trying. General Donahue and I are working on a data warfare company at the core level, which I think is part of the future, which would be a logical place for these folks. I think there's a couple slots in every division and corps in the Army where we need this capability. Candidly, our PEO teammates could benefit from having some of this expertise if there's some legal implications. So what I want to do is create a bunch of landing spots, sustain the excellence we're doing at the software factory. It's like Top Gun, right? Like if you win the trophy, you get to come back and be an instructor. I see that kind of thing. And what I'd really like to do is, I've been around the Army a long time, but every post, and maybe it's because I'm an infantry heavy, the infantry between armor posts. There's a community college at every single one. Fayetteville Tech, Central Texas, you know, pick one. Down in Hinesville, we got the Savannah. So I'd like to scale this. You know, I'm interested in, can we scale this? What the magic we're doing with the partnership between AFC and Austin Community College, is that something we could build at 3 or 4 more installations across the Army? So I'm on one hand, the sky's the limit. On the other hand, the current model is not sustainable, and we got to fix it. So that's about as much as I know right now. The one thing I do know is we're not putting anybody in until people move out. We're at max capacity, the end's full, and I don't want to slow down loading it on the left side, right? So we all got to work together to figure this out before somebody else does it for us. When I was at G3, you know, because I was in the people count business, I was like, I don't know. Now I'm the AFC commander, and I see the magic, but it's not sustainable right now. So the risk is if we don't figure out a sustainable model, somebody's just going to say, yeah, it's a cool little thing, go ahead, you can have 100 people at a time, and, you know, it won't die. It's never going away, but it won't realize its full potential unless we turn it sustainable. I know that's a long answer, but I hope that's useful. Yeah.
Sir, good morning. I have a quick question, and maybe something that's perceived as simple. I know we've always had our conference rooms named after Star Wars names. And not everybody's into it, even though I'm a Star Wars fan myself. Would you consider possibly renaming them into something more aligned with art history, Army?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. Everybody in the AFC team use the suggestion program. Yeah. But I don't understand that problem a whole lot, but yes.
Sir, we have a question from online. We focus a lot of attention on developing new and emerging technologies. Yes, developing new and emerging technologies is important, but shouldn't we be more concerned right now with just manufacturing and automations so that we could produce more stuff more quickly?
Boy, that's a good question. So I don't think we have the luxury of picking between those two, would be my answer. But people ask me a lot, like, what are you learning from Ukraine? And I always say, I don't think it's too early to say we learned anything, but there are some really interesting observations. One of them is, and I think this is a fair criticism of our modernization approach as an army, is we're going after capability, and we're probably not paying enough attention to capacity. So I looked at the 155 thing that's happening globally. It's in the paper, not secret, but you know, America, the arsenal of democracy, the World War II industrial base, it's not there. And what's a little bit alarming, and the Army's working really hard on it, and Congress is really helpful because they're all about fixing it, is we were operating under an assumption that, well, if you had to crank it up, you just throw some money at it and you can crank it up. That is not the case. So we got to throw money on range fires. We absolutely got to get after protection. The network still doesn't work because we need to add capability, but we need to do it through a lens of capacity. So we could make a cannon that was awesome, but we could only afford enough for one division. Or we could make a cannon that was really good and better than what we have now that we can afford for every division. So I think, and then the third variable is none of it matters unless you can get it into position. So that's why posture, that's why campaigning, the stuff General Flint's doing to get into the second island chain, our ability to project combat power, preserve our installations. So it's a great question, and my answer is it's really a Rubik's Cube of capability, capacity, and positioning. If you read the Army campaign plan, that's what it talks about. We talk about delivering Army at 2030. It's all three of those. Fortunately, we aren't in the positioning business, but we are in the resiliency and installation business. We're in the climate business. We're in the contested logistics business. So I think we got to balance all three rather than overly commit to one or the other. Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. I'm Command Sergeant Major Hester. So I'm Dr. Z. I work in human capital. It's probably an unfair question since you've already addressed that Ms. Miller is new and she'll be addressing this recruitment strategy. But I've been asking about our diversity strategy ever since I got here 3 years now. And more importantly, how are we retaining the diverse workforce that you currently have? And what are we doing to make sure that they're also getting promoted across and within AFC? Thank you.
Hey, thanks. That's a great question, and I have not dug into that as much as I should, candidly. I did not, it didn't come up as a problem, but I would put it in a place that we're not excellent or not as good as we need to be at. And that clearly falls in the work I've asked Ms. Miller to take on. So I'm not passing. I will talk about diversity though for a second. Diverse teams are better than non-diverse teams. I'm a leader, pretty good at it, not great. Always get better, but I've been doing it a long time. That is not an opinion, that is a fact. Okay? If you build a diverse team, you get better suggestions, your thinking gets challenged. People with more perspectives looking at a problem produces a better result. So I'm 100% on the value of a diverse workforce. I also believe that it doesn't happen naturally unless you go out and proactively work on it. And I also, and some people don't agree with this is definitely opinion. I do not believe in the United States Army you have to pick between the best qualified person, a best qualified workforce and a diverse workforce. I reject that kind of thinking. I believe that if you work hard enough and look hard enough, you can stay in the best qualified and build a diverse team. So that's my goal. How we're going to do that and the things we need to fix on, I look forward to working together on it. That's part of why people are number one. I'm go to Fort Benning. People in the room, it ain't a real diverse team yet. So we do, again, but it's not good enough, and it ain't going to stay that way unless you make it forever. Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. You follow up with me in about 30 days and see if I got a better answer.
Sir. Thank you.
We'll talk to Ms. Miller about it.
Yes, sir. I have an online question.
Yeah.
Is STRL, Science and Technology Reinvention Laboratory, still on track? There seems to be significant pushback from the major federal unions.
Who did they say there's pushback from?
From the major federal unions.
Oh. Okay. Ms. Miller, you want to take that one?
Sure. So, yes, the STRL is still on track. It went out for public comment back in October, and so everyone knows I'm new. I'm catching up with everything that's happened before I stepped in the door about 3 weeks ago. But back in October, it went out for public comment. That was a 30-day period. It was public comment, so employees were invited to weigh in. Got a lot of good comments. I understand there were over 100 comments provided. And so currently what's happening is those comments are being adjudicated, and there may be changes made to the FRN based on the comments that were received. And so then we have to make sure that we meet the labor obligations, work with the unions to resolve any concerns that they have, so that then we can go out and implement that FRN and move forward to convert our workforce, the rest of our workforce, into the STRL. We have some additional areas that we need to be working in concert while at the same time while we're working through that FRN process, working with the unions. There's some behind the scenes system things that we need to make happen so that when we move into the STRL, all of our personnel actions appropriately process in the system and flow into personnel records. And so we're on track. We're working all of those things. You may not see all of that happening, but we are on track, and we're looking to have all of these things work ready to move in mid-summer of this year. So that's our target, and that's what we're working towards. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Lot more work to do on that. Expectation management wise, it's a hiring authority that you can pay people more, but they don't give you more money. So that's okay. You're going to be fiscally responsible, but it's as a leader, if I want to go out and pay somebody above what we normally pay folks, that's going to cost me a job. I'm going to have to downgrade another position or let a couple people go. So it's not the Powerball, man. It's a business tool. One thing I am adamant about, and I applaud Ms. Goodyear for her efforts, and I fully endorse, is if we can do this at DevCon, we should be able to do it across AFC. I didn't understand why we limit this. It should be some vehicle that we can use to manage our whole workforce. So we got some work to do on it. That question was a lot easier than the one I got in bed about this topic. Wearing me out yesterday. So it's probably the same cat. Should taking another shot at me. Anyways, okay.
Sir, our final question is online. The Army excels at leader development. An excellent but unskilled an example of budget, resource planning, execution, and personnel management. An unskilled leader is likely to be less effective in a position requiring such. How can AFC promote professional skill development before people are thrusted to positions and have to play catch up?
Yeah, I don't know. You lost me on. I know what the PBE process, and that ain't an unskilled job. I don't think that came across right. But yeah, hey, so leader development, in my opinion, is the single biggest responsibility the leader has, and I mean that on and off the battlefield, in and out of combat, in uniform. It doesn't matter. Unless you're going to fire somebody because they can't subscribe to our value system, the only way to get better is to make your people better. Number one. Number two, if you're a leader of a leader, you are accountable for their success. One, because you want that person to be a good leader, but more importantly, they have your people. When I was a lieutenant, I had a battalion commander. I had to sign the hand receipt for my humans. Literally, it made me sign for 40 each, 11 Bravos, to make a freaking point to me. That's what matters. So the best thing we can do for our teammates is make sure they're well led. It's answered every problem. If I give you a 20-question fill-in-blank test about the Army and you wrote leadership, you get at least an A. Right? It's how you stop sexual assault. It's how you build a diverse team. It's how you create a high-performing organization. It's how you deliver results. It's how you manage supply discipline and accountability. The answer to every problem is leadership. So I'm very passionate about this. And I've seen this, it had the same thing in the Pentagon when I worked in Tridoc. We get up into these high headquarters, like no company troop battery commander that's worth a crap would ever consider not doing leader development when they got busy. It's everything but that. So how do we become leaders? And it's kind of a boiling frog thing, you get around, you start operating around senior folks that are more experienced and make bad assumptions. Everybody can be a better leader than they are now, no matter how good they are. And the thing that's frustrating is we've got great, if you're uniform, we got great doctrine on this, we got great process, we got great leaders, right? General Kaufman, General McKean, these guys are the best, period. They've commanded divisions. You don't do that if you can't be excellent at leader development. Because you got to get B game out of your C teammates, right? The only way to get better if you're not firing people is making people better. And on the civilian side, which I know a lot about, because when I was the CAT commander, I was in charge of it for the whole freaking Army. The civilian education enterprise is awesome. It is also poorly attended. Unlike NCOES, like, hey, you can't be an E7 unless you go to the E6 school. Like the civilians have the same schools and they're as good or better. You can do them at home, you can do them distributed, you can do them satellite, we got we pay for it. And we got to beg people to go. If I was king for a day, you couldn't go from one GS or every third GS level. you'd have to get professional military education. I can't order that, but it's there. And, you know, don't go crazy on me because we got work to do. Generally speaking, I support anybody here availing themselves of any kind of professional development. All the greats, almost every single great civilian I know at my level took the time to go to the war college or went to CGSC. You know, you get paid. You paid, go hang out at a cool place for a year. I mean, I'm all for that. Internships. We're not anywhere near as creative as I've asked Ms. Miller. One of the things I told her I want to get after, we got partners with how many universities we got? 130, 150, 300. We got partnerships with 300 universities. I want their, you know, I don't know if you got college kids. My kids, every summer's drama was where am I going to go do my internship? My drama was, are you going to get paid for it or not? You know? So I'm like, hey, not only do I want to bring those young men and women in here, but I'd be all about exchanging. You know, let's let one of our teammates go work at Prairie View A&M, not UT. Nothing against UT, but we got enough working with them. I mean, you know, somebody wants to go, I'll trade one of you for a senior engineering student at Prairie View A&M, not because it's an HBCU, but because it's one of the best. I'm serious. It's one of the best engineering programs. It is more heavily recruited. Their engineering program is more heavily recruited by top 500 companies than the unnamed ones around here. So let's get creative like that and get after leader development. So sky's the limit to me. Thanks. Okay. Sorry, Major, you got any final comments?
Yeah, thanks, sir. I just would say, with regard to leader development, I think a lot of times people fail to realize or acknowledge that every day in every engagement, development is happening, right? Just because we don't send a person to a school, or just because we don't sit you down and say, I am going to develop you as a leader right now, or do you acknowledge this is going to happen? And then they go, yes, please develop me. It actually happens consistently throughout most organizations. Now, some do it better than others. And I would just say that one of the things, I kind of go back to one of the Army values, which is personal courage. If you feel like your team or your leader, like I did my little kids, use your outside voice and ask them, is there a way that you can develop a personal contract with each other to develop each other? One, it's going to help that leader learn to develop people, because some people are better at it than others. And then it's going to get you what you want, which is development, right? Now, we don't want that to be our developmental model, but it is a way, as an individual, as a small organization or a large organization, to create that environment where people feel like they're being developed all the time. And I get developed every time I'm with the boss, every time I'm with one of these folks up here, and more importantly, every time I go out and talk to young soldiers or younger civilians and leaders, they're constantly developing me. Whether they know it or not, it's happening. So it is this reciprocal kind of thing. And most times people really want to sit down and say, I'm developing you, or they want to hear that, or they want it to be in an institutional environment or something like that. And that is a process that we use. That's our doctrine. CG talked about it very well. But I would just say from a personal perspective, if we would just acknowledge the fact that everything that we're doing all the time is leading toward our development, we might be happier in the am I being developed space. Now that doesn't give an excuse to not do professional development, structured professional development. We got to do that also. And then these are great opportunities to communicate. Thanks for your questions. Some things to think about. I think we can take some things away from these questions. We can also do better in those areas. I'm sure there's a bunch of questions that didn't get the opportunity to be asked. Brian.a.hester. That email box is open 24/7. I'm happy to take your cards and letters, and my door is always open. If you don't have access to the 19th floor, see Sergeant Womack, and he'll give you access to my office. Happy to sit down and have a candid discussion with anybody about anything. So, great to see you all. Have a great weekend. And
Thank Sergeant Major.
Thank you, Sergeant Major, and all great points. And you have the suggestion hotline. So if you want to email the Sergeant Major, now you don't have an excuse. But ask your questions. Well, I really got a vision of that kind of being a living, collaborative space. You know, it's designed to circumvent the EEO process. It's not designed to circumvent the IG process. A lot of our peers tried to figure out how to use the suggestion line to circumvent. And none of them still work in the Army. So guys like me and McKean got through division command by following the rules. But this is not. It's designed to augment that. I ask everybody to do that. But my biggest thing is, hey, listen, first of all, thank you. I appreciate your patience with me as I got on the team. I'm open to continue the dialogue about the DIOCs. We did a culture assessment. It was fascinating. I'll roll that out. I need about another month. Ms. Blickinger and her team are still tearing on that. Improve communication, keep building. Let's go from good to great in terms of how we take care of each other. I'm really excited about going. We should lead the Army on workforce, right? We got the innovation, we got the talent. 88% civilian workforce is a huge advantage. That is not a disadvantage. That is a huge advantage because you've got continuity and depth of expertise you don't get from. We'll bring the 12% of warfighters in and out. Knock the sand and dirt off them, get their experience, and get them back out in operating force. But we have huge opportunities, and we should be the world's leader in a lot of things. One of which is how we care for and develop people. And that may sound ambitious, but I'm not here to be average. I don't think any of you are either. God bless you all. Thanks for everything you do, and I'll see you soon. Over.
Thank you, General Rainey and Command Sergeant Major Hester, for your discussion, and thanks for everyone else in the room for your participation. At this time, this concludes the Town Hall portion of the event. We're going to take a short break so that we transition to the awards ceremony. Forge the future.
Thank you.
Stretch. We're supposed to say it.
It allows the joint force multinational collect data, evaluate effectiveness, reduce risk, and optimize warfighting capabilities.
Oh, they're over here.
How the world? Yeah, you got some. Once David, what was that?
Each year, with industry and research partners, we test hundreds of technologies using
Now delivering.
Ladies and and gentlemen, we'll begin the award ceremony in 2 minutes.
Yeah, they're saying on teams that YouTube looks really good. Yeah, so what the Oh, it's a medieval camera, right? Yeah. Do you know if they're compatible with Chrome or just straight YouTube and Facebook? Can you tell her before she was do you know if they can connect with Teams? You have to probably not with the club because you have to connect them through not yet because you can't work on the camera. Some lifted up, some broken.
I like this. I always say
All right, you ready?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of General Rainey, Command Sergeant Major Hester, and the Army Futures Command Support Battalion, welcome to the fiscal year 2023 first quarter award ceremony. And as usually, as we conduct the award presentation, please hold your applause until each category, at the end of each category. The following exceptional team members are recognized as a Soldier and Civilian of the Quarter. The selection of the Soldier and Civilian of the Quarter is a great achievement. Both recipients were selected by a board panel of ASC peers based on the following criteria: contributions that have enhanced the organization's mission accomplishment, teamwork, and public image, professional attitude towards self and others, and willingness to share credit with other team members, commitment to excellence demonstrated by dedicated service, continuous improvement, and stewardship of resources. And finally, personal initiative, creativity, and professionalism reflected in the soldier or civilian performance. We also appreciate all those who took valuable time to recognize their stellar teammates. All nominations were exceptionally strong. The following soldier was nominated and selected as the United States Army Futures Command Soldier of the Quarter: Major Daniel Miller, Directorate of Intelligence and Security. Major Daniel Miller is awarded the Army Achievement Medal for professional excellence, leadership, and dedication to mission accomplishment while serving in positions of increasing responsibility for the Army Futures Command Directorate of Intelligence and Security from October through December of 2022. Major Miller's support to Army Future Command directly led to the successful accomplishment of the command's mission. His dedication and relentless pursuit of excellence reflects great credit upon himself, the United States Army Futures Command, and the United States Army. The following team member was nominated and selected as the U.S. Army Futures Command Civilian of the Quarter: Miss Billy Stokes, Human Capital. Ms. Billy Stokes is being awarded the Civilian Service Achievement Medal for exceptional service while serving as a human resource specialist for the Personnel Service Division Human Capital Directorate from October to December of 2022. Ms. Stokes' selection as a Civilian of the Quarter was indicative of her outstanding performance, dedication to the mission, and willingness to improve the relationship within the organization, uplifting the overall morale. Her outstanding performance, professionalism, and dedication to duty reflects great credit upon herself, United States Army Futures Command, and the United States Army. The following exceptional team members are being awarded their achievement while supporting the Army Future Readiness Conference. Their outstanding performance, professionalism, and dedication to duty reflects great credit upon themselves, United States Army Futures Command, and the United States Army. The Meritorious Service Medal is awarded to Major Sarah Kelly, G357.
Hey, let me go off script here for a second.
Yes, sir.
So, Army Future Readiness Conference. That is a huge deal in the Army. And because AFC, I didn't talk about it earlier, but AFC is an ACOM, an Army Command, 104. It bothered me that the other three, and I'm sorry, just being honest, it bothered me that the other three had a forum in the Army every 6 months where they brought the team together to do their job. So when I was the G3 and found out I was coming to AFC, I wrote an order to the Army. AFC told me to do it. But I'm not kidding. I got here and I said, hey, I want to do one. Everybody's like, hey, sure, great. You're the commander. When do you want to do it? And I was like, now. November. They talked me into December. The reason I wanted to go fast is I watched this. The other commands do it. But usually you got to do the first one to learn, because they're usually a disaster. I'm not talking bad about my teammates, but if you look at some of the first ones of the other ones, it's like a train wreck. You got to have that one so you can fix it and have a good second. This command crushed the first short notice, never done it before, trying to figure out how to do SIPR and February, you know, and protocol. It was awesome. Now it's a thing. That's, you know, you're rewarded for good hard work, more good hard work. And my standards and expectations go up every time, so the one in May is going to be even better. But this was a big win for AFC, not because of me, because of these great young men and women. So this is a big deal. Thank you. Okay. All right, over to you again. Get control.
Meritorious Service Medal is awarded to Major Sarah Kelly, G357. The Meritorious Civilian Service Medal is awarded to Dr. Jason Sutherland, G357. And virtually, joining us virtually are Ms. Andrea Nguyen, CIO G6, and Mr. Timothy Tarr, CIO G6. The Army Commendation Medal is awarded to Captain Heath Van, Texas National Guard. Captain Tony Mendoza, Texas National Guard. Captain Stephanie Wooden, Texas National Guard. Sergeant First Class Mireya Cruz, Texas National Guard. Staff Sergeant Kevin Wilson, Texas National Guard. Sergeant Adam Green, Texas National Guard. Also joining us virtually, Captain Morgan Snowdy, Texas National Guard. The Civilian Service Commendation Medal is awarded to Mr. David Huerta, CIO G6. The Army Achievement Medal is awarded to the following soldiers. Staff Sergeant Martin Pescador, CIO G6. Corporal Luis Uteres, CIO G6. And join me for a final round for all those who supported the Army Future Readiness. The following exceptional team member is being awarded the Superior Civilian Service Medal for his achievements while supporting the United States Army Futures Command as a Chief Personnel Service Division, Human Capital Directorate. His outstanding performance, professionalism, and dedication to duty reflects great credit upon himself, the United States Army Futures Command, and the United States Army Mr. Ronald Galloway. The following exceptional team member is being awarded the Army Commendation Medal for his, for his exceptional achievement while serving as the event lead for the Army Futures Command Vertex Human Performance Event. His outstanding performance, professionalism, and dedication to duty reflects great credit upon himself, the United States Army Futures Command, and the United States Army. Joining us virtually is Major Nicholas Rinaldi, Army Application Lab.
Yay!
And the following exceptional team member is being awarded the Civilian Service Commendation Medal for his achievement while serving as the architect lead for Project Convergence 22. His outstanding performance, professionalism, and dedication to duty reflects great credit upon himself, United States Army Futures Command, and United States Army. Mr. Luis Fregoso, G357. The following exceptional team member is being awarded the Army Achievement Medal for her flawless effort and support during the transition of the outgoing and incoming Human Capital G1 Director. Her outstanding performance, professionalism, and dedication to duty reflects great credit upon herself, United States Army Futures Command, and the United States Army. Major Alexander Cromie, Human Capital. The following exceptional team members are being awarded the Civilian Service Achievement Medal for their achievements during the fiscal year 2023 first quarter while supporting the United States Army Futures Command. Their outstanding performance, professionalism, and dedication to duty reflect great credit upon themselves, U.S. Army Futures Command, and the U.S. Army. Miss Jennifer Bates, AFC Support Battalion. Mr. James Campbell, Office of Secretary of General Staff. Mr. Mark Coombs, AFC Support Battalion. Mr. Timothy Golden, AFC Support Battalion. Mr. John Shoemaker, AFC Support Battalion. Ms. Tawana Smith Barrett, AFC Support Battalion. Mr. Michael Stevick, AFC Support Battalion. And joining us virtually is Dr. Orbert Conte, the AFC Support Battalion. The following exceptional team members are being recognized for their selection as the winners of the 2022 Department of Defense Diminishing Manufacturing Sources and Material Shortages, DMS-MS, the Lifetime and Individual Achievement Award. The Defense Diminishing Manufacturing Sources and Material Shortages Achievement Award is recognizes individuals and teams from the government who are the most responsible for significant achievements in proactive DMS-MS management and implementation. The 2022 Department of Defense DMSS Lifetime Achievement Award recipient is joining us virtually, Mr. Brent Bowler, Long Range Precision Fires, CFT. And the Individual Achievement Award recipient is joining us virtually, Miss Alyssa Micas, DEVCON. The following exceptional team members are being recognized for their length of service as the Department of Defense Civilian, Department of the Army Civilian. Their outstanding performance and professionalism to government services reflects great credit upon them, the United States Army Futures Command, and the United States Army. And ladies and gentlemen, as we conduct the award presentation, please hold all applause until the end of each category. In recognition of the 5-year service, Mr. Vincent Valerian, G49. In recognition of 10-year services. And joining us virtually are Mr. Jonathan Lee, Office of Staff Judge Advocate, and Mr. Enrique Rivera, G357. In recognition of 15 years of service. Miss Jessica Collins, Command Group. And Mr. Matthew Flout, Software Factory. Also joining us virtually are Miss Linda Pistossi, Command Group, Miss Lucretia Johnson, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and Dr. Katrina Mansfield, G357. In recognition of 20 years of service, Ms. Stacy Redfield, Directorate of Intelligence and Security. Also joining us virtually are Ms. Amy Alexander, Office of Secretary of General Staff, and Ms. Susan Torres, Human Capital. In recognition of 25 years of service, Mr. Billy Michael, Human Capital. Miss Cynthia Pittman, Resource Management.
I don't know about that shirt.
In recognition of 30 years of service, Mr. Richard Black, Directorate of Intelligence and Security. Mr. Matthew Fath, G357. Mr. Alex Marquez, Directorate of Intelligence and Security. Also joining us are Ms. Kelly Jackson, Office of Safety Security. In recognition of 35 years of service, Mr. Willie Kinsey III, Human Capital. Also joining us virtually are Mr. Wayne Julius, G357, Ms. Christina Dash, G357, and Mr. Brian Holleran, National Capital Region. The following exceptional team members are being awarded the United States Army Futures Command coin for exceptional achievement and service during the fiscal year 23 first quarter. Major Kenton Satterwhite, G357. And joining us virtually, Miss Christina Hedberg.
Let me tell you a story. So I got a great chief. She's like, hey, she's coaching me, good sport of the student, professional courage. She's like, hey, you need to spend a little more time walking around. You're traveling too much. So I said, that's awesome. This last Friday, listen, my chief, it's a good job skill. Inspired me to be successful. So I go walking around, and I couldn't find a whole lot of people. But I found, it's all right, it's my fault. So I found this cat in a cube down there on the 15th floor. So what are you working on? He's like, I'm trying to figure out what the AFC commander wants to do with AFC. So I'm like, we're in luck. We closed the kill chain on this guy. And then figured it out.
And also joining us virtually is Ms. Christina Hedberg, Director of Intelligence and Security. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please give one final round of applause for all who were recognized today. Their contributions to the Army People. Any final words?
Yeah, hey, you mentioned it, but leaders taking the time, like this kind of stuff doesn't happen unless leaders recognize excellence. So our problem is not having excellence, right? It's about leaders recognizing excellence. So I just got time for that. You know, they never say thank you enough to the people that do what they do. And I'd like to thank all the folks that put this ceremony in the town hall together. So let's throw a little round of applause. I meant what I said, man. I'm humbled and honored to be on this team because of you all. All right, so go rest up. Come back Monday. Get after it. God bless you.
This concludes the ceremony. Thank you for attending and forge the future.
We've had these discussions inside the